Hey, Westgate Church, it's Bob Goff here. I want to thank you for making this possible for me to be here. Pastor Steve, Kayvon, thank you for the work that you're doing up there, and the entire team that's part of putting this together. I love that you guys are entering into a new year. We're doing this thing together, and we've got to answer a couple questions to get there. Here's my question for you. What do you want? Why do you want it? And what are you going to do about it? Isn't that a great question? Like, start with, what do you want? It was a question that Jesus asked every blind guy he ever met. The guy would be at the gate, he'd be like, I'm blind, I'm blind, I'm blind. And Jesus would say, what do you want? He'd be like, duh. He's like, but I don't think Jesus was confused. I think he wants to know from all of us, what do you want? I know what I wanted in high school. Growing up in Willow Glen, I wanted a date. In the worst way. Never happened. 4 years of high school. I got to college, you know what I wanted? A date. I managed to squeak 4 years of college into 5, never got a date. I was in my second year of law school before I met Maria, and she walked in the room. Guys, you know how this goes. She walked in, I'm like, yes, you will be mine. I knew what I wanted, and I wanted her to not just to go on a date, but to do life. And as I found out more and more about her, I filled in the blanks about why I wanted that more. And so what I want you to do, whether faith is new to you, whether you've been hanging around Jesus for decades, I want you to ask yourself, what do I want? But then I want you to ask yourself this, why do I want it? That is such a validating question. It'll cause you to go through to say, if you want like a convertible Porsche, that's awesome, go get 2. But ask the question, why do I want that? Is it because you're just as insecure as me? You think that's going to fix it? Because it isn't going to, and you're going to pay a ton in fixing that thing up. But ask yourself, why do I want these things? If I want to be popular, say like, well, so why? Like, to what end? And to whom? And how popular would be enough? And then decide, what are you going to do about it? Because that's where it gets really good. That's where our faith gets. I love Galatians 5:6. It says the only thing that matters is your faith expressed in love. Isn't that great? I don't want to have my face on the side of Mount Rushmore. The bases are loaded. I'd look pretty funny up there anyway. I don't want to be known by a bunch of people for a bunch of things that don't matter. What I want is to do the work that Jesus has for me. And so I think for you that are following Jesus, you want to do those same things. But let me ask you this, what are you good at? I'm a lawyer. I've got a bunch of things in a drawer, pieces of paper that say I'm a pretty good lawyer and that I'm licensed to practice law, but that's not what I'm doing. That's something I'm able to do. That isn't something I was made to do. And it can be a noble profession, but just like yours, it can take a turn and go to the other side. I don't think God is as interested in our career as he is in our character. And so one of the things that I want this year is I want to work on my character. One of the things I want to do is I want to be more authentic. There was 37 miracles that Jesus did. Isn't that crazy? The first miracle, you guys know, right? Water into wine. The fifth miracle was this. He was walking down the Sea of Galilee, and he sees an empty boat, and there was a couple guys out fishing. So he gets in the boat, and he pushes out. It was the first boat jacking. And you know what he said to the guys? He said, push out a little deeper. And these guys had been working all night. You know what? They thought it was a stupid idea. But here's what the scripture had said. They did it anyway. You know what I want to do this year? I want to work on my character. I want to push out a little bit deeper in this direction that Jesus has for me. And it's going to take a little bit of courage to get there. Our faith isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be simple. So what I want you to do is to say, what would be your next courageous step towards Jesus? What would be the thing that you want that you've kind of vetted by saying, I know why I want it, and then it's going to take some courage to actually go after it. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of second best that's available. And I don't want you to swing at all those pitches. There's a bunch of second best that's coming your way and my way all the time. Be really, really picky. What I want to be is available. I wrote a book a little while ago, and there was some room on the last page of the book. And so I asked the publisher, could I put my cell phone number in the book. They looked at me like I was on drugs. I'm like, well, now I have to. Like, not go on drugs, but put my cell phone number. You guys, there's 2.5 million people that have my cell phone number. And get this, I don't send people to voicemail. I get 100 calls a day. It's awesome. I can't get a thing done. And one of the things about availability is that it's going to cause you to be constantly interrupted. That's exactly what happened to Jesus. Somebody was pulling on his shirt. He said, like, who was that? Remember, there was a little guy up in a sycamore tree. He said, lunch on you. He was available to everybody. What if you and I decided that we were going to not only be available to the people around us, but we were going to be available to what Jesus Christ might have uniquely for us when he asks the question, what do you want? And you're able to answer. I want to be the person that's going to make my faith real not by all the things that I say, but by all the things that I do. And here's the deal. Jesus doesn't need your help. I asked him before we started. What he wants is your heart. What he wants you to do is to say, what's the courageous thing that I can do to express my faith and love and work on my character along the way? One of the obstacles that I have is that I have a really conflicted life. I think you do too, if you're honest about it. Paul did too. You're in good company. Romans 7. Remember, Paul said, I just keep doing all the stuff I don't want to do, and I don't do the stuff I do want to do. Does it feel like he's reading your newspaper? That's me all the time. I teach at Pepperdine Law School, and I was driving. I was stuck in traffic on Highway 1 behind this like red Ferrari with the top down, and the license plate said Amish. I'm like, there's a guy with a conflicted life. I don't know, maybe he was backslidden, maybe he was in a hurry. But one of the things that I want you to know is that you live in a very conflicted world. Get real about that. Don't fake it. One of the characteristics I'm trying to work on for myself, I'm trying to just be more authentic. I spend a whole bunch of time in San Diego now because it turns out that Maria liked me back. And so we got married and we had some kids. And my new ambition, I wanted to be a grandpa in the worst way. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are married. And my son took his wife over to Hawaii. And he called me up. He said, Dad, it's been raining all week. I'm like, yes, more wine to the cabana. Well, it's a year or 2 later, I'm a grandpa. And they had this little kid, and this little guy is full of so much love and energy. He learned his first word, and the first word he learned was apple. And so an apple is an apple. I'm an apple. A table is an apple. And every time he says that, I just melt. I'm like, listen to what he said. Well, you guys, God loves seeing you begin. It's Zechariah 4:10. Don't despise small beginnings, because the Lord loves to watch the world begin to unfold in front of you. Start doing that. Take that first step. What's it going to be for you? What's a courageous next step? For me, I'm working on patience along with authenticity. And I'm an impatient person. I don't know about you, but I make coffee nervous. I'm like just on the move all the time. And if you're struggling with patience, I want you to take these words from Paul in 1 Timothy 1:16. For God chose me, the worst of the sinners, to put on display his immense patience. I want you to say that word after me, immense patience. That's what it's going to take for us to uncover some of the things that God might have for us this year. It's going to be patience that's going to get us there. And some of you are trying to get there in one big leap. And what God is going to do is he's going to slow you down along the way so that it isn't about you anymore, but that we could slow down and make it about him. And if you're in a big hurry like I am, you're going to miss some of the neat things that God might have for you. Be patient. And if you're uptight about that, I don't know, get a puppy, but don't put everybody on edge about it. What it's going to take for God to develop in me and you, it's going to take a little while. You know, if you want to grow a radish, it takes 20 days. If you want to make a pear, it takes 7 years. Do you know how long an avocado takes from the time it's a seed? 14 years. And what I keep doing is taking everything and putting it in the microwave, and God keeps taking it out and putting it in the crock pot. Immense patience. Slow it down. Realize that what God is up to in you is going to take a while. I know that you have a huge footprint when it comes to serving people overseas, and I share that desire with you. One of the things that has been so close to me is seeing little girls that need to learn how to read and write, but they're prevented from doing that. I don't know if you followed what's going on in Afghanistan, but the Taliban won't let little girls learn how to read and write because they're girls. And I heard about that, but I didn't know anybody in Afghanistan. I mean, do you? So you know what I did? I got on WhatsApp. I met a guy from Afghanistan. So we're sending messages back and forth, but I don't know what team he's playing for. So I'm like, so how do you spend your day? When I say the word enemy, who pops to mind? Nothing. So I went back to Washington, D.C., and I asked our friends there. I said, do you know who this guy is? And here's what they told me. He's a good guy. Like, got any more detail? Crickets. So do you know what I did a year and a half ago? I flew to Kabul, Afghanistan to meet him. What a stupid idea. Now I get off the plane and I get my cell phone. There's a text message from him. And he said, Bob, I can't meet you at the airport. I'm like, oh, shoot. Actually, I don't know if I said shoot. But he said, what I want you to do is leave the airport and start walking through Kabul. And people, I do not blend in. He said, after a while, you're going to come to a car. The engine will be running. The last number on the license plate's a 7. Get in the car. Now, you tell me, what would you do? I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. So I'm like, what could possibly go wrong? So I did the walk. I found the car. I got in, and we started driving. Do you know who it turns out I'd been talking to? A guy whose office is 20 feet from the president of Afghanistan. What he wanted to know is if I would trust him enough to do what he told me to do. Then he'd trust me enough to build a girls' school. And we've started. We've built our second girls' school. There's girls in Afghanistan, they're learning. And here's the deal. God isn't dazzled when we go across an ocean. You know what blows his hair back? When we go across the street. Love your neighbor. And that's going to take a bunch of patience. Because I have some neighbors that are kind of difficult. How about you? I got some news for you. You're kind of difficult. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we're actually all a little bit difficult. And what it's going to do is take a different perspective. It's going to have clarity on our part to know what we want, why we want it, what we're going to do about it. You know what I'm going to do about it? I'm going to get real about it. I'm going to get patient about it. But authenticity is going to be costly. I spent a lot of time in Uganda, and I've never taken the malaria meds. I mean, like, what are the chances? Last time I was there, I got malaria. You guys, it almost killed me. I got the wrong kind. I was in the ICU for 10 days. I lost 30 pounds, which is awesome. But I'm telling you that you do not want that to happen. I'm fine now. Here's the crazy part. My right hand, if you reach out your right hand, my right hand is still, I could do Lasix. Bring your eyeballs up here. But my left hand has this trimmer. I could whip eggs. One of the things that I've realized about myself in my faith, I keep reaching out my right hand, my strong hand to people. And I'm thinking about the miracle that Jesus did with a guy with a withered hand. And remember what he said? Reach out your hand to me. Isn't that beautiful? Jesus could have healed the guy's hand in the pocket, but I love that he said, reach out your hand. And maybe that's you. Maybe this year has been so tumultuous, been so destabilizing that it's time for you to get real with your faith and reach out your hand to Jesus. But don't you dare keep reaching out your strong hand. That's what I've been doing for 20 years. What I'm learning is to reach out my weak hand. And if you'll reach out a hand of authenticity to not only to Jesus, but to some of the beautiful people that he surrounded you with in this church, in the leadership, in the friends that are sitting next to you, and get super real. What I want you to do is go to Starbucks, have 3 minutes of authenticity. I mean, just make them pay. But 3 minutes of just getting super real. Say, I don't care what it looks like. Let's just talk about what it is that's going on in my life. Let's talk about what's going on in my marriage. And here's the rule. Don't try to fix them. Don't say anything. And then we're going to flip it, and you give them 3 minutes of authenticity. Just say, this is what's really, really going on in my faith. I'm telling you, if we're willing to do that, we'll bust through the stuff that's keeping us separated. Satan doesn't want to destroy you. He wants to distract you. He wants you to have all of the appearance of a faith without actually having faith. And we don't need to fall for that. What we need to know is what we want, why we want it, and what we're going to do about it. It's just going to take a load of authenticity. I'm out here at this retreat center that we have, and there's horses down the way. And 3 friends came up to go ride horses, but we only have 3 nice horses. All the rest are like stallions that are like race horses that go fast, but they don't like to be ridden. Well, not knowing anything about horses, I'm like, what the heck? I'll just saddle one up. Oh my gosh, I was on that horse briefly. It took off running at about 40 miles an hour and bucking, and it threw me off. Fortunately, landed on my head, best place ever. And everybody ran up and said, Bob, are you okay? And I sprung to my feet, and I was laughing. I said, I'm okay. I'm sure bleeding from my ears. And I knew I was lying. They knew I was lying, and I had to ask myself, like, why did I do that? It wasn't a pride thing. I just didn't want to be a buzzkill. Everybody was there to have fun, and I got knocked on the ground. And maybe one of the reasons that you're not being authentic with the people around you, you just don't want to be a buzzkill. And you don't want to be the one person that has the problem. It's not that you're prideful about it. You just don't want to get real, or you don't even know if they really care. I'm telling you, you're surrounded in a church community that really, really cares. Try it for 3 minutes. Reach out your weekend to say, what would happen if I got super real about what was going on? And if we get real like that, man, Jesus is going to show up. Man, he's already there. You're just going to be able to see him for the first time. For some of you, this is going to be really scary stuff. This is courageous stuff. For some of you, it's going to take a whole heap of patience. Whatever it takes, make the step. You guys know the famous story about the David. This chunk of marble abandoned by several different sculptors. And then, someone finds this and they say, we're going to chisel and find this beautiful, 14-foot tall man. Now, he could use a tunic or two, but there he stands. Do you know what is true about the David statue in Florence? It's out of degree. It's 2 degrees out of center. Isn't that crazy? And what's happened in the 1500s, it was fine. And the 16s and 17s and 18s and 1900s was pretty good too. His ankles are breaking now. You can fake it for a while. You can be a little bit out of center with your faith. You can be a little bit out of center with some of your friends for a while. But I don't want us to do that anymore. This is the year. I want this to be the headline. More than ever, like right now, I want us to just get real with where we're at. And what it's going to take is finding what God has already given us. Acts 1:1 through 3. It says, Theophilus, lover of God, look for many convincing proofs that Jesus is still alive. Doesn't that sound awesome? It's kind of like dusting for fingerprints. What I want you to do is look for those convincing proofs. Look for it in your kids. Look for it in your family. You guys have an important message. Like Paul Revere, he had an important message to get out, and he had a fast horse. And he can't kill the horse. You got to take good care of the horse you're riding. The horse is this community of people that you're at. And the way that you feed the horse is by authenticity. I'm telling you, if we could get super real about our faith this year, people are going to do the things that seem absurd for them to do, like pushing out a little bit further. But you know what? They'll do it anyway. And the people that have been difficult in your life, maybe those are the people that are actually lowering us through the roof to Jesus' feet. Maybe the people that I realized that I spent my whole life avoiding were the people that Jesus spent his whole life engaging. And if we start flipping our faith around like that, keeping it super real, I'm telling you, you're going to find an authenticity about your faith that's going to be contagious. People are going to see right past your opinions, and they're going to see Jesus. And so don't fall for all the things. Jesus doesn't need a lawyer, and I'm a pretty good lawyer, and he doesn't need you to be his lawyer either. Tend to your own fire. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Follow what Hebrews said. The author and creator, the perfecter of our faith. And if we keep our eyes fixed on him, I'm telling you, this stuff is going to make a lot more sense than it does right now. But it's going to just take a lot of patience. It's going to take a lot of authenticity. It's going to take reaching out a weak hand to the people around us. And if we get that right, we get everything right. I'm going to close with one last thought. We live down here in San Diego, and there's a theme park nearby, SeaWorld, right? And the thing about SeaWorld, it costs like $90 to get in. Who's got $90? But you can get a shopper's pass. And the shopper's pass means that you get 1 hour to go in and buy like a stuffed like tuna and then come out. But in 1 hour, if you're running, you can see the whole thing. And so I took a friend of mine. We went to SeaWorld. We got a shopper's pass or two, and we just started running. We hit the penguins. We hit the dolphins. We hit Shamu, did his thing, and splashed. And you guys, we only have a little bit of time, 27,373 days. If things go right, that's the average lifespan. A little bit longer if you eat broccoli, a little bit less if you eat Pop-Tarts. You got 27,373. And my question to you is this: what are you going to do with what you got? We got this little bit of time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm spending mine being available to people. There was a woman that called, and she said that this book had been given to her by a friend, and she was reading it, and she was actually in a particularly vulnerable time. She had been diagnosed with a brain tumor. And she said, the thing about this brain tumor is that when they go in to do the operation next week, they take out the part of my brain that lets me speak. Is that crazy? I said, you only have a few more days for the rest of your life to speak to anybody. What are you telling the people that you love the most? And she paused for a second and she said, you know what? I'm being really picky about what I say. Man, if there was one thing that I want to be the headline rolling into this year, I want to be really picky about what I say. I'm a lawyer, man. I've got a fast tongue. I say stuff for a living. But you know what I'm doing? After talking to her, I'm slowing it down a little bit. I'm being really picky. And I've had some great examples in front of me, people that have been picky about what they had to say. It was actually right before all the things that came that shut things down. A woman came up to me after I was speaking, and she said, hey, are you a friend of Bill W.'s? And I didn't know what she was saying, because I know a lot of guys named Bill. And she said, oh, no, it's just curious, and she left. It was about a week later, and I realized, you know what she was talking about? Bill W. is the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. There was something that I had said that reminded her of something that she had learned in recovery. And rather than putting me on the spot to ask if I was in recovery, she said, I'm just going to ask him if he's a friend of Bill W.'s. I tracked that gal down. I told her that was the kindest thing anybody's done for me in a year. Be picky about what you say. Find a kinder way to say it. And when somebody does something a little bit creepy, come up with the least creepiest explanation for why they're doing it. If they're a little bit on edge, find out the least creepiest explanation. They're probably having a bad day. There's something about that when we're picky about the words that we say. That'll be the kinds of things that, well, they'll smell. They won't know why, but it's the aroma of Christ. They're seeing this, I'm not trying to be right, I'm trying to be Jesus. And I'm telling you, it's going to take a lot of patience with yourself, because you're just as conflicted and ornery as I can be sometimes. But God loves seeing the work begin. This woman that had the operation coming up, we made a phone date. And we said we would talk on the day after her operation. And so that date came, and I happened to be in the back of a cab going somewhere. And I called up, and it rang a couple times, and then someone answered the phone. Nobody talked. I'm telling you, but we were speaking volumes to one another. I'm telling you, a bit of authenticity, a bit of vulnerability. You know what you're going to do if you do that? You're going to see Jesus Christ appear in your life, keeping our eyes fixed on him. You guys, I'm grateful to be with you. God bless you. Thank you for loving one another the way that Jesus did. He was present with them. He was available to them. And it's not going to cost you a nickel. It'll cost you 5 minutes. But show up for that 5 minutes. Get real with God. Reach out that weak hand to one another and to a God that says, man, I specialize in weak hands.